Hey there YouTube, welcome to Big Mike Beard Wisdom. So, you may or may not have seen the video in which I detailed the car, but what I never did was detail the mats. The reason why was because the mats were kind of destroyed, and then these mats are held in with this little knob down here, and that has a corresponding part in the mat. So here's the driver's side. Now obviously, I've got a set of mats over here next to it that I have some plans for. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take this out. So these do come out depending on like what year they are. They can come out pretty easy. Some of them, once they're like locked together, they do not come apart. So the biggest thing is that as you look at it, you can kind of see that the inside of this bottom one goes up and into it and kind of hugs on the inside of the top one, so onto this one. So this one just kind of sits flat, and you can see it's kind of grody. Now what you can do is you can grab on both sides and kind of pull them apart, but you got to be really careful that way you don't break anything. This particular year, with probably this part number, pulls apart fairly easily, and you can do it with just your hands, and it's held in place with just kind of like almost like a Christmas tree pin type ridges on both inside and outside pieces. So here's the pieces out, and as you can see, there's almost like those Christmas tree type parts that basically slips inside of the upper piece, which likewise has like corresponding kind of Christmas tree type parts. And then basically to put them back together, all you would do is line them up and squeeze, which we're not going to do right now. And the plan is to take this cheap set of mats that I got from Walmart that seemed pretty simple, and we're going to take these, find a good spot in the Astra, so somewhere where it's not interfering with the clutch pedal or any of the other pedals, and still covers a fair amount of the floor, and then use the old mat holes as a template for where to make a hole and hopefully squeeze these into place. So as you go to remove this, I'd recommend pulling from this side. This is fairly weak, and if you see, I'm able to flex this backside, but if you hold onto the mat, you can kind of pick up on this side and either slowly work it off or just tear the damn thing off like that. Alright, so this is how the original mat would have sat in place. So right about here and right about there, snap down in. You've got the dead pedal area over here that's uncovered, and then this goes up into here, but you can see it leaves room underneath the accelerator pedal, and then these kind of go up underneath the clutch and the brake pedals. So if we were to overlay the new one in, oh, this sucker's big. So right here is where that cover is, which would put it almost right in the middle of this part here. So what I'll probably wind up doing is figuring out a way to shift it this way just a little bit. That way we're in this flat section, and we should be able to get that ring in there. But it might be one of those things where I can't get it to sit where I want it to sit, and I may have to modify something. Because really, if I could get it to slide up to about here, mount those rings right here, that way this clips in, it gives me this nice border here to help keep water in. And then I'll probably trim this up here, along here, over to here, cut that whole section out. That way this folds flatter against that dead pedal section and out of the way. I lightly marked like where that little knob is that's in the carpet, and then I drew a little circle from the carpet, so the original floor mat, around it to kind of set up how big of a hole I have to cut. And then I already did it on this side, and I figured out that I don't have to make it super round or super concise. This rubber from this mat will stretch a little bit and kind of get close. Certainly not the prettiest of holes, but that bottom part will snap in and cover it up. Just like that. So, not quite how I wanted it exactly, because it's kind of overrunning this a little bit, but that should still kind of leave me a good ridge for like water, ice, and slush. Especially in the winter here, there's a lot of slush and water that you want up tracking in. So this fits close, but I kind of want this section here to sit flat. Always be careful with razor blades. So this side's here, it's nice and in. This side clipped in, but I had a little bit of bunched up material right here. So what I did was I basically left this side clipped in. I kind of have this sitting about where it kind of should be, so there's room underneath the throttle pedal. That way it's able to go full throttle. And what I'll do is I'll trim off this little area here. That way hopefully this piece will snap on and still cover up any kind of holes. Alright, so that's now in place. This is sitting pretty flat. And now the big thing is to try and figure out how to get this up here to sit just a little bit better. So with how things are up here, you can see it's kind of close to the steering shaft. So that upper section there will need to be trimmed down. And then what I think I'll have to do is basically cut along this edge. That way that kind of goes away. So I'll trim up and over here and up through there. Alright, so we got that edge nice and trimmed up. Top section kind of cut loose. And you can see that it sits nice and flat, and it's far away from any kind of moving steering components. And then the clutch should be able to actuate it all the way. So we should be pretty good. This still sits a little high right here, but what I think will happen over time is that this mat will kind of sink down just a little bit as it takes the shape of the flooring. The big thing is to make sure that you're not impeding on any of the pedals and causing any kind of weird issues. That turned out pretty good. Plenty of clearance. These retainers work. The mat sits relatively flat. And it's kind of an easy way to go from a crappy worn out factory mat into a semi cheap-ish all-weather mat that's custom fit to use the factory retainers and go into its place without any kind of issues. And while I love Weathertech floor mats, they're just not in the price point of where I've got the Astra. Now, for the passenger side. If it doesn't work, just trying to pull it out of the mat. So if the whole thing comes out, what you can do is just take a screwdriver, kind of slip it in here, and slowly apply pressure in between. So it's kind of weird, like trying to open the worst kind of Oreo. No one likes carpet flavored Oreos. But you can work around it in a circle and slowly move it down, essentially one level of Christmas tree clip area at a time. Hopefully you get it to a section that you can just pop her loose. That way you're not continually prying all the way around forever and ever. The passenger side, I did a little bit differently. I just kind of had this lined up. I didn't use the old mat. I didn't use any kind of the template. So I just kind of put the mat in place, stuffed it down, cut a hole out where the little finger's at, slipped the bottom piece onto there, and then cut the hole. So now I should be able to just take this, hopefully snap this one down in place. Establish dominance. So this might be the one that was kind of stuck together, but this is now attached. That's now clipped down in place, so it's held in. And then what I'll do is I'll just take and I'll trim out this one again, so it's right there. So you can see where this is at. I'll finish trimming around here, take the other bottom piece, snap it down, and then I'll finish trimming the hole just that little bit bigger. And then I should be able to snap this in place. Meanwhile, the mat's where I pretty much want it. I need to trim this section here because it's kind of bending around, and then trim this upper section, that way it's not colliding with stuff in the dash. And then this side will be pretty much good to go, a little bit quicker than the driver's side was. That one's in place, trimmed around. The bottom part of the clip retainer is in, and hopefully this one snaps in easier than the other side did. Which it did, so that pushed down much easier. They're together. Just go ahead and squeeze them, make sure that they're good together. And there we have it. Passenger side's in, snap down, sitting flat, not touching anything weird. All good to go. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll check you next time.